Didn't President Trump bring up the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state during that call with you?
Yes or no, did Mr. Trump bring up the 51st state in his call with you?
Were you being truthful?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. This phrase perfectly encapsulates what's going on between the Bloc, the Conservatives, and yes, even the NDP. When it leaked yesterday that Mark Carney wasn't so intimidating in his call with Donald Trump, reporters had questions and Carney had few answers. That didn't stop liberal damage control pundits from trying to spin this in mainstream media, but both Conservative and NDP panelists were not putting up with it. And neither should Canadians.
Let's take a look.
Well, look, I look at it this way, for the past few weeks of this campaign, it's like the old adage, you had one job. Mark Carney had one job, which is to convince Canadians he had our own interests in mind, that he could talk to Trump and Trump won't be the crazy president who keeps talking about the 51st state. And that did happen. He didn't tell us about it. And now he's trying to say that it doesn't really matter that much. I don't think that looks good on Mr. Carney, quite frankly.
Christy, what do you think?
Well, I mean, look what he's trying to do here. He's trying to protect Canada's interests from the most aggressive president of the United States in history. We are in this momentous election, probably the most consequential in my lifetime. And at the same time, he's trying to manage these trade negotiations in the middle of an election. And I'm not going to fault him for getting off the phone after being talked to respectfully, called prime minister and those other things, and trying not to make the president angry. We really have every interest in trying to build a relationship between these two men. Mark Carney, should he be elected prime minister, and I think he will be, is going to, he has to start from something. So just getting out there and starting to trash the American president based on what happened in a private conversation is not going to be helpful for Canada. And I can tell you, the bottom line is the ballot question is still the same. Who do you want running the country in the face of this incredibly consequential election? Do you want it to be Pierre Poilievre and all of his darkness and divisiveness, or do you want it to be Mark Carney, who's experienced, who's helped us and other countries through many crises over the years, and who's going to deal with this like a mature adult? And I think I'm in on the doorsteps out here in Edmonton today, Vashi. Nobody's talking about this. They're talking about how they're worried about the future of Canada and making sure it's in the hands of the right kind of leader.
And that should be the ballot question. The
Right.
future of Canada and making sure that we have the right leader at the helm.
Right. And just so everybody knows, so the Conservative, he's a former minister, is in the bottom left, and NDP is in bottom right, and even Vashi couldn't really keep her face under control as Christy Clark was that
Pierre
was gross.
Poilievre and all his darkness and division,
That was gross.
Come on.
She's essentially trying to be a sycophant for Mark Carney. Okay, so, we can't blame him. He's managing trade negotiations in the middle of an election. Actually, there are no trade negotiations going on because, according to Mark Carney himself, those negotiations are going to wait until after the election. So what are you talking about, Christy? And never mind the fact that he's saying, oh yeah, all the darkness of Pierre Poilievre. Yeah, it's darkness to have more money in our pocket. It's darkness not to be taxed into oblivion.
it's darkness to grow the middle class. It's darkness to grow our economy. This is what these liberals actually believe.
Right. Well, and I don't even know if it's what they actually believe, but it's what they want Canadian voters to believe.
Right.
And this has been the whole problem this entire election. They're saying, oh, well, this is the ballot box question. Well, no, you just want that to be the ballot box question.
I see your colleagues both want to jump in. Their facial expressions were plentiful during your comments. I guess my question would be, I understand the explanation that Christie put forward around not wanting to further aggravate, let's say, President Trump. But Mr. Carney could have simply said that today, and he chose not to. He didn't offer any explanation. He actually rebutted even the gall of the reporters to ask him multiple times about it.
Yeah, and this is where Mr. Carney's not strong, frankly, is being able to explain things sometimes that are uncomfortable for him. And he gets a bit of that prickly kind of Mark Carney that I'm sure Liberal supporters don't want to see. To Christie's point, he's chosen the timing of this election. He is playing a dual role. We've talked about on this show, largely to Mr. Carney's advantage during the election. He's able to be prime ministerial, but also be a candidate. That's the job. I don't doubt that it's a difficult job, but there's a simple question that was put forward. How did the phone call go? It was great. He called me prime minister. He respected Canada's sovereignty.
And this is the one thing I want to make sure that, we highlight. So Mr. Collins rightly says he chose the timing of this election. Right. Mark Carney chose the timing of this election. So for people to turn around and say, oh, well, it's so hard and he's busy. Sorry, guess what? Nobody else chose the timing of this. Mark Carney chose the timing of this.
Right, because not only did Mark Carney choose to dissolve Parliament, he also chose the shortest election cycle possible.
Right, and why did he do that? Because Trump was essentially going to be his running mate in all of this. And we have seen that play out from the beginning. So if you're wondering or need a reminder of what Mark Carney said before, this is what he actually said way back in March.
Today, President Trump and I spoke on the phone. We had a very constructive discussion, and we agreed to begin comprehensive negotiations about a new economic and security relationship between our two sovereign countries immediately following the federal election.
I didn't hear anything about 51st state in there. I didn't hear anything about annexing Canada in there. I didn't hear anything other than when I got on the call.
Right, he was...
Mr. Trump listened.
He was puffing out his own chest, right? He wasn't saying, well, Trump was making fun of me, Trump was insulting Canada, none of that. It was as if Carney was in control the whole time, and, he's the one that can deal with Trump because he can talk to him man to man.
Right. He was coming at Trudeau, and Trudeau, wasn't viewed as anything serious, but, I'm the guy.
Right.
So, and that's what happened. Now, for anyone who may have missed this exchange yesterday, here's a little snippet of the interaction between Mark Carney and the reporters.
Didn't President Trump bring up the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state during that call with you?
The president brings this up all the time. He brought it up yesterday. He's brought it up before.
The president respected Canada's sovereignty today, both in his private and public comments.
This is not news. He raises it all the time.
Yes or no, did Mr. Trump bring up the 51st state in his call with you?
I said that he did.
The president respected Canada's sovereignty today, both in his private and public comments.
Were you being truthful?
He absolutely did. He absolutely did. Look, the president has certain things in his mind that he reverts back to all the time. But treated me as the prime minister. We agreed as sovereign nations.
The president respected Canada's sovereignty today, both in his private and public comments.
Did Mr. Trump bring up the 51st state in his call with you?
I said that he did.
Can't have it both ways.
Right, something's not quite lining up here.
So we were going back between the press conference yesterday and the March 28th press conference. So you can't have it both ways, Mark. You can't. So I think,
But this is that revisionist history that the left is so famous for.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And it's like, oh, well, he did. Well, you said that he did yesterday. You didn't say that he did back in March when you wanted to position yourself as, see, Donald Trump will bend the knee to Mark Carney like everybody else will. But this is what he's been doing this whole time. Oh, well, I ushered Canada through the 2008 financial crisis. No, you didn't. I ushered, England through Brexit. No, you didn't. And, I helped the Paul Martin Liberals balance the budget. You weren't even president in government when that happened. So
And Mark Carney invented the wheel.
and everything else.
But this is where these ridiculous memes or jokes are coming from, is that Mark Carney has been caught in so many fibs that kind of are designed to make him look better, that people are just kind of running wild with it on the internet and producing hilarious results, quite frankly.
Well, and here's E. Blanchette and Jagmeet Singh coming after Carney for what he said.
It seems more and more to have been a stunt.
I'm worried, I think, as a lot of Canadians are worried, that if Mark Carney's not being straight up with us, he's not going to be straight up with us in the negotiations.
So Jagmeet Singh finally said something constructive, which is, if he's lying about the small things, what is he going to tell us about the big things? And now we're back to Justin Trudeau and the transparent Liberals all over again.
Well, and this is what Canadians need to be asking themselves. If this man is willing to lie about things that are seemingly inconsequential, what big things is he going to lie about? What is he going to try to hide? What scandals are going to come out under Mark Carney's government?
And remember, folks, you can get in a lot of trouble, in some cases, legal trouble, by lying on your resume. So when Mark Carney is literally trying to lie in the public sphere about what he's done, which is on his resume, why are you going to trust that? That's going to be like a dentist saying, oh, I'm a dentist and I have worked on over 50,000 patients. Meanwhile, the reality is they were only present for 50,000 patients and they didn't actually do any of the work and they didn't get billed for it accordingly. That's basically the same thing in what Mark Carney has been saying about, I've managed all of these crises. You've been present for them, but the real work has been by people that are unfortunately are not alive to defend themselves anymore. So this is what it's coming down to, folks. It's more lies, it's more gaslighting, and you can tell Mark Carney is incredulous that he's even being challenged on these questions. So is this really what you want for the next 4 years? I don't think so.